All right, sorry to keep y'all waiting a few minutes. As you can see by my shirt, this is our Curing Kids Cancer Awareness Week game. Curing Kids Cancer was founded in 2005 with the mission to fund innovative research and treatments for pediatric cancer. Was founded by the Owen family, who I've had the blessing of getting to know since I became the head coach. Clay is a graduate of South Carolina. They lost their son Killian to childhood cancer back in 2003, and just have a heartbreaking story. But their First and Gold campaign dedicates college football teams dedicate a home game to the fight for childhood cancer, and that's us this week as well. They're doing amazing things. So the T-shirt and the wristband as well. This group has raised more than $1.2 million for the Prisma Children's Hospital here in Columbia. My wife Emily and I are very involved through our foundation with the Children's Hospital here in Columbia, and the outpatient hematology and oncology clinic has been renamed the Gamecocks Curing Kids Cancer Clinic. So we're honored to be a part of that special group, and something that hope no family ever has to go through. So blessings to them, and certainly proud to call the Owen the family friends. So on to another week here for us. Before I move forward, certainly want to thank our fans that made the trip to Lexington. That was an awesome crowd of Garnet and Black, and we walked in the team meeting on Tuesday, and we showed our players a picture of the stadium at Kentucky, just so they understood what it looked like and where our tunnel was and locker room. And I made a point of showing right over here in this corner is where our fans will be. There'll be a huge sea of Garnet and Black that you'll see on Saturday, and there was. And the best part about it is they were there at the end, and it was like a home game there at the end for us. So proud to be their coach, and so appreciative for those guys making the trip up to Kentucky last weekend as well, and it was no surprise either. I'm excited about this week. Obviously, what an opportunity for us against a really talented, well-coached LSU team. Have a ton of respect for Brian Kelly and the success that he's had wherever he has been. My dad coached against him when he was at Cincinnati, and my dad was at Virginia Tech, and they coached against each other in the Orange Bowl. And I was on the opposite sidelines of him when I was at Georgia, and we played up at Notre Dame back in 2017, and Coach Kelly was the head coach at Notre Dame, and his teams have always been the same: tough, disciplined, physical, well-coached, and this group is no different. They're really good on special teams. They got a dynamic returner that was a problem last year at Mississippi State, and now he's a problem at LSU. Defensively, they got athleticism and speed. That's what jumps off the tape. Size up front. Everybody knows about Perkins. He's everywhere that we got to account for. A great football player, but they've got guys that can disrupt things at all three levels of the defense. Offensively, really impressed with Nussmeier, the quarterback. He does not look like a first-time starter. He looks very poised and confident. He can make all the throws. I know they've had some injuries at running back, but they have talented guys back there that complement each other well. Really good tight end and Taylor. Talented group of receivers that have size, or aren't as big but have great quickness and speed. So a multitude of skill sets at the receiver position, and then arguably the best offensive line in the country. The two tackles are unbelievable. We do a advanced scouting report each week on every opponent, and we rate every player on the opponent's team. As we give them a grade, and the highest grade that you can give a player is elite/rare. And you might see that, I don't know, maybe once a year. Certainly those tackles have those grades from our standpoint. There's a reason they're going to be high draft picks, but like I told our players this morning, that's life in the SEC. So get used to it, fellas. There's going to be great players every single week that we face in this conference. And there's great players on our team now that opponents get to face every single week when they play us also. So I think it'll be a heck of a football game. I know it's going to be an amazing environment in Williams-Brice Stadium. We already had a bunch of recruits that wanted to come to this game before what happened in Kentucky and before game day announced they were coming. Now, I mean, we're having to turn people away. We got so many recruits that want to come to this game. So that'll be great. The environment with game day will be great. I would encourage everyone, please, 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 please get here early. We know traffic will be wild, to say the least, with everybody coming in for game day and a 12 noon kickoff. So leaving plenty of time because we need pregame, we need game day, we need the pregame, the kickoff, 2001, all that. We don't need people filtering in because of traffic. So get up here early, start tailgating at 6 a.m., whatever you got to do. Yeah, so you're in here and you're ready to go because this place needs to be rocking on Saturday. This will be their quarterback's first true road start. He started a bowl game. He started a neutral site game that was basically a home game for LSU out in Vegas, and then he started a home game last week. So he's a mature young man. He's been in big environments like that, but first time as a starting quarterback, we need to make life really difficult for him, our fans, and confident they will. And what an opportunity to showcase Gamecock football, the University of South Carolina, the city of Columbia, the state of South Carolina with game day coming. It's a testament to our fans and this community that game day chose to come here. So like I told our players yesterday, this is going to be the first of many times that game day comes here for one of our football games. So we need to get used to it, and we're excited about the opportunity on Saturday. Have a big challenge, and had a good practice today. Can't wait to keep this thing rolling. So questions, I guess David's in D.C. Congrats to Dawn and our women's team for being up there today and getting honored. So I guess you get the honors, Hale. Is that what I'm noticing here?
I think I was just the first to raise my hand.
You saw an opportunity with David not here, though.
Yeah. With game day being here, I just wanted to hear what you had to say about just your memories and, I guess, relationship with the show, for lack of a better way to put it. I would imagine you probably watch when you can on Saturdays. And
yeah.
Do you remember your life before you were coaching with the show? And
no, I do. I can remember, watching it for sure, but then being at Virginia Tech in '99, that was my senior year of college, and that was the year we went undefeated and played for the national championship. And game day came to Blacksburg, I think twice that year, for Syracuse and the Miami games, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember what a huge deal that was, that game day is coming to Virginia Tech. And then over the years, getting to know Kirk Herbstreit on a personal level, and getting to know Chris Fowler and Reese Davis now, and Pat McAfee in the last couple of years, getting to know those guys has been cool. And then certainly I'm a fan whenever we're in the hotel on game days, home or away. I'm watching it if we're not in meetings or eating or whatever we do as a team, because I'm just a college football fan and enjoy watching it without a doubt. I remember in 2010 when they were here when we played Alabama. I think we had an off week the week before because we had lost to Auburn, if I'm not mistaken, the week before. And I remember we were working that Sunday, and I think I told you guys Sunday night, I ran in the subway over here on Assembly Street to get lunch. And I remember coming out of Subway and my wife telling me that it had just been announced that game day was coming to Columbia for the Alabama game 6 days later, and how exciting that was. And it's the same feeling now as well as the head coach. So it's awesome for our community, and great that they're coming here. And now we need to make sure they walk out of here saying that's a place we need to come back to, and we need to do our part to play well and make it a memorable day.
Hey, Shane, you mentioned how the fact that game day is going to be here and the, I guess, extra interest from some recruits. Can you elaborate a little more on how something like that can really have an impact on your recruiting? And do you think game day has as much impact here in the era of NIL and the transfer portal? No,
I do. I think it's certainly the way we played Saturday. We had a lot of people that were already interested in us, but we were fortunate that Saturday in Lexington, that was really the only game on. There were a couple other ones, but it was kind of the premier game across all channels. So there were a lot of eyes that were watching our game on Saturday, a lot of recruits that were watching that game on Saturday and saw us playing freshmen. And Monday nights we work late, but we take an hour from 6:30 to 7:30 as a staff and just FaceTime recruits for an hour straight. And we probably talked to 30 kids last night, and that's what they were all saying was, man, y'all were balling against Kentucky and whatever else, and that defense and those freshmen and Dylan Stewart and all that stuff. That's great. And then, so that already had excitement. Then game days announced that they're coming. That just created even more excitement with fans, recruits, our players. But yeah, I believe absolutely, NIL, it's a different time. Transfer portal, it's a different time. But having, those players, they watch that show and they know who those guys are. And they know that, Reese Davis and Kirk Herbstreit and Lee Corso and Nick Saban and Pat McAfee are going to be here this week. Desmond Howard are going to be here this week as well. So they know who those guys are. And even if they don't, they know that when game day comes to town, that's a big deal as well. And that's a test. I told our players this morning, it's a testament to them and LSU that they want to come and be a part of this thing and get used to it.
You've talked a lot about this offense kind of being a process and needing to gel, and it's just going to take some time with young players. Is there one thing or maybe a couple you kind of put your finger on as the next step for this offense, just going week 1 to 2 to 3?
You got to eliminate the negative plays. We've had way too many negative plays in the first 2 games, and especially this week. We're playing a defensive coordinator that was at Missouri the last 3 seasons and frankly embarrassed us the last 3 seasons with the number of negative plays. I think in 3 games we've had like 8 sacks and 24 tackles for loss, if I'm not mistaken, in the last 3 years. So the thing for us is we've had too many of those negative yardage plays on offense, and we certainly can't come out of this game on Saturday having 8 negative yardage plays. If so, it probably hasn't gone well for us on Saturday. So that's the good thing. That's the big thing. They're going to make some plays. I'm not saying that. They got really good players. So we're probably not going to have there's probably going to be some negative yardage plays, but we just can't have them where it's every possession we've got negative yardage plays. Just efficiency, efficient runs. Not every pass is going to be a 50-yard explosive down the field, but just being able to have efficient passes and stay on schedule as an offense will be key this week. And that's, to me, that's kind of the next step that we got to get better at.
Kind of a 2-parter for you. Does this feel similar at all with the national spotlight being on you guys compared to, say, last year when you guys were on game day, then the year before where, all the hype started building up once you guys beat Clemson and Tennessee? Yeah,
I think in a lot of ways the spotlight is back on us, but we've we talked this morning that one of the keys for us this Saturday is we got to handle success the right way and handle some of the, I don't want to say distractions, but there's a lot going on this week that we didn't have to deal with last week, or that we didn't get to deal with last week. It's a positive. We need to get used to it, but we need to make sure that, one, we're handling distractions the right way, and we also have to handle success the right way and realize that, the bandwagon, if you will, is getting full in a lot of ways, and understanding that there's people that are on that bandwagon right now that may jump right off the next time that things don't go well. And really our guys understanding that the key for us is just continuing to just work and continue to get better. And that's what we've talked to our players about. Just keep working, keep getting better. We know there's a lot of things from that Kentucky game that we have to clean up, as good as the score was and how good that score was. And it was. We played really, really well. But we also know that, we played with great effort and physicality and toughness, and that didn't just happen. We prepared last week to go play like we did on Saturday, and that's going to be the key for us, is not get caught up in being in the national spotlight and the hoopla and having Ryan McGee right next door interviewing players and myself for ESPN right now, but instead just worrying about what we can control and go get better and get back to work, which is what we did on Sunday night.
Yeah, along those same lines, Shane, how do you think this team is prepared to handle those things that you talked about? Because it's been kind of a crazy first couple of games between, the reaction from week 1 to to the reaction now after the win?
I think so. I think we're prepared to handle it. We'll find out, but I feel like we have a very mature team in a lot of ways. No, we're young in a lot of spots, particularly on offense, but we've got a lot of veterans that have been around here for a while on defense, and veterans like Kai Kroger and Kai Kroger and Hunter Rogers and Alex Herrera that have been around here for a long time, and veterans on offense like Luke Doty and Vershawn and Jakai that have been around here for a long time. So we got a lot of players that we're going to lean on them to really set the tone for our guys this week. And what we told our players is, that Kentucky game was huge, but we're either going to look back here at the end of the season and say, man, that Kentucky game was really huge because of what it propelled this football team to. And they took that win and they just continued to get better and use that momentum. Or we're going to look back at that Kentucky game and say, what an opportunity we wasted that we played like that. And then we sat around and drank the Kool-Aid all week and listened to all the pats on the backs that we're getting. And instead of getting ready to play a really physical, well-coached football team against LSU. So I feel like we're prepared. Practice today showed me that we're preparing the right way. And then the key for us is just going to be to continue to improve Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then just go turn it loose on Saturday.
Coach, this program no stranger to big games. Played in bowl games in your 10-year in 2022, that into the season. How are some of the older guys speaking to some of the younger guys like Dylan Stewart, et cetera, of what's to come? You kind of alluded to of what's to come and how to handle that pressure when the lights are the brightest.
Yeah, I think just continue to get better and continue to work. Our challenge this week is, one, not to listen to listen to the pats on the back, but prepare to go play well. And in Dylan and Kyle Kennard's instance, and our defensive tackles, they're listening to everybody tell them how dominant we are on defense. That's wrong, because they're getting ready to play arguably the best offensive line in the nation on Saturday, and they better be ready to play. And you can go on and on and on. Mazio Bennett, young player, had a really good game on Saturday where he's getting ready to play a team on Saturday against LSU that they don't really try and disguise stuff. They're going to line up in your face, and they're going to press you, and they're going to play man coverage and say, beat us. So we need to be preparing to go do that. But I think we've got mature guys, like I said, older guys that have been around here. But one thing I like about this freshman class is particularly the ones that are playing, Josiah and Michael Smith and Mazio and Dylan, primarily, and a lot of freshmen that are playing, Fred Johnson. Those guys, they're very, steady and consistent and mature to be young guys also. So I think they'll be fine.
LSU's defensive struggles last year pretty well documented, but I know it's a small sample size with just these last two games. What have you seen on tape that makes them different this year in these first two than they were last season when they struggled?
Yeah, haven't watched, other than just personnel, haven't watched a ton of last year's. I've watched more 2023 Missouri defense than 2023 LSU defense, just because schematically we're going to see more Missouri. But certainly I watch it for personnel because they got a lot of the same players. I think the thing that jumps off tape is just the effort they play with. They've brought in not just Coach Baker from Missouri, but brought in Texas's defensive line coach and brought in some other people, and those guys are playing with great effort. I mean, there's a play against Southern Cal where Southern Cal double teams one of the defensive tackles for LSU, takes him to the ground, but then the D tackle gets up and he's the guy that makes the tackle for like a 2-yard gain. I mean, it's just the effort they're playing with. And then you can tell they have a lot of confidence in what they're doing. They've got good players, and they're out there playing with great confidence and playing fast and getting lined up and going and playing and utilizing their abilities.
Two things. One, do you have any say in who the guest picker is?
No.
None?
No.
Okay.
Unless they plan on asking me later in the week. I haven't had any say, and Steve's probably got more influence. I haven't talked to anyone or anybody about game day. I know about as much as y'all do.
Okay. Second thing.
If I did, I'd probably put Hunter, my son, up there. That would be like my pick. Just let him get up there and fire away.
All right, Hunter Beamer it is. What have been your thoughts on the rushing attack and Rocket? I mean, he had the nice run there, but it doesn't seem like he's had just too many explosive runs or anything that makes your eyes go up yet.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. It's nowhere near good as it needs to be. We need to be more efficient for sure. We've had, going back to Alan's question, we've had some negative runs and negative plays, and we've got to have positive yardage. In my mind, we're too good on the offensive line to have negative plays, and it's everybody. It's receivers, it's running backs, it's tight ends, it's quarterbacks, reads, it's everybody. So we've got to be more efficient. There's no question about it. I like, schematically what we're doing. I thought there were some runs on Saturday that really could have been even more explosive than what they were. Rocket had one coming out. I think it was maybe the second play of the second half. We threw a little pass to Mike Smith, and then we went tempo and we handed it to Rocket, and he almost came out of that, and that could have been a long run. Robbie had one when he was in the game where he kind of stumbled and for positive yardage. That was close to pop him. The touchdown that Rocket scored at the end of the game, I mean, that was great, just individual effort and physicality running through people. So we need to be better. Not everyone's going to be a 40, or not every play is going to be a 20, 30-yard run, but we need to make sure that we're, constantly running that thing for better than whatever we were yards per carry the other day. I think we were less than 3. We've got to be better.
I know 2 games is a small sample size, but it's usually taken over the last 10 years, 5 games for South Carolina to get to 10 sacks. What do you make of how y'all have gotten there? Has it just been talent level, in increasing the talent level in that personnel, or is there something else?
I think that's a lot of it. We were better in that room than what we were last year. We're a year older, and we've added some players, and the players that returned are a year older, and that's been a huge part of it, obviously. But we knew that we needed, when you look back at last season, we didn't do a good enough job of generating pressure and creating our own negative plays and getting teams behind the chains. So we looked at some things, certainly schematically, about how to continue to generate pressure in the backfield on the quarterback or to create negative runs. Schematically, we've done some things, but a lot of it is just new personnel, and they've come in and done a great job for sure, and need to continue to. It's 2 games. We got a lot of football left. Dylan and Kyle and the rest of our edge guys aren't going to sneak up on anybody. That's for sure. So we got to make sure that teams are going to continue to do things to try and take those guys away, and that's great because I feel like we're better at the defensive tackle position and linebacker position and secondary position. We all saw us the other day. We brought Bakari on a pressure one time, and Jalen Kilgore and Kelvin Hunter are making some plays in the backfield on perimeter runs. So I like that group all together in general, and it's personnel, but some schematic tweaks too.
In week 1, there was a lot of negative energy on social media and everything. It seems like when your team has a lot of negative energy, they play better. What are you telling your team to keep that hunger going into LSU?
That the same people that are patting them on the back this week might be the same ones next week that are, ready to stop cheering for us or whatnot. And I know I said it after the game, and it's true. Like, I didn't mention one time last week about the line going into the Kentucky game or what, people are saying about us. But, you got to be an idiot to think that some people were disappointed with the way that we played against Old Dominion. And for us last week, it was making sure our guys just understood we did some good things against Old Dominion, and the key is going to be, here's what we have to do this week, and we have to get better against Kentucky. And then this week, it's really the same thing. It's not worrying about what anybody's saying. We've talked about being able to do a great job of handling success this week, because last week it was different. It was, what the heck's wrong with y'all? Whereas this week it's, man, y'all are the greatest. And I'm in here working the rest of the day, and I'll be here till late tonight. But our players just left, and now they're head of the class and Chipotle and wherever else they go in Columbia on Tuesdays, and they're hearing that. So making sure that they continue to focus on what's important. And the thing that we've said is we don't need to change. Like, we played really well against Kentucky last week because we prepared really well throughout the week, and I was extremely confident going into that game because of the way that we prepared. And that's going to be the key this week. We can't worry about who we're playing or who's set up outside of here in Gamecock Park. We need to prepare the same way. We don't need to do more and, oh my God, it's LSU and it's game day and all of a sudden change our routine. But we do need to continue to do what we do and make sure we take care of ourselves and have a great week of prep to go play on Saturday.
Thank you. Just going back to comments you made a little while ago. So 2 games in, and how much one-on-one blocking are you seeing on your defensive ends from opponent offensive lines? And considering how good LSU's offensive line is, are you contemplating that they'll just say, hey, we can handle these guys ourselves? Or are you contemplating that they might bring some help to their offensive linemen?
A little of both. Back to the first question, Kentucky was going to help their tackles some, and then they were going to leave those tackles alone at times. There's the clip I've seen when we showed it to the team the other day. I mean, there was one play where Kentucky tried to block Dylan Stewart with 3 different people, and he went through all 3 of them and made a play on the quarterback on a throwaway. So we're prepared for that. We knew that going into last week, and that's fine. There's other ways there's other ways to generate pressure. We've got some pretty good defensive tackles too. If they want to use 4 guys blocking our edges, that's great for Boogie and Tonka and TJ and those guys as well. And then as far as LSU, they do a good job, I think, of mixing things up, Phil. I mean, they use multiple tight end sets, and they shift and motion and give you different looks, and they'll roll the pocket out a little bit to move the quarterback and get him on the edge. They'll keep tight ends and chip and then get out, and then certainly I'm sure they're going to feel extremely confident with their 2 offensive tackles of not giving them any help. If I'm not mistaken, the 66, the tackle, he's played 1,700 career snaps and he's given up 3 sacks. So, I'm not great at math. What is that? Almost once every 600 snaps he gives up a sack. So I'm sure he feels pretty good going into Saturday. And the sacks he gave up were to Jared Verse from Florida State, who's in the NFL right now, Will Anderson from Alabama, who's in the NFL right now, and a quarterback scramble. So, I'm sure they're extremely confident, and it's a big challenge for our guys, and I'm excited to watch Kyle and Dylan and the rest of our defensive ends, edge group, as well as our defensive tackles, how they combat, LSU's offensive line. Told them this morning in our team meeting, I mean, what an opportunity for our guys to get to go compete against what many say is the best offensive line in the country.
Lenore's told us that there were some things out on the field that slowed down for him from game 1 to game 2. When that happens with a guy, not just quarterbacks, can you see that on the practice field and just the way he approaches it?
Yeah, I think so. I thought he had a better week of practice last week throwing the football than what he did the week before going into the Old Dominion game. So in my mind, last week in practice, things started to be, continue to get more and more comfortable for him, and certainly that carries over to the game, and then you would hope it would be the same thing in practice as well the following week, this week, because every week we have a specific game plan. The way that Kentucky plays defense is different than the way that LSU plays defense, but we also try not to have just brand new offenses every week as far as scheme goes, so a lot of the same plays, the play that we scored on with Mazio, the first touchdown was literally the first play of the game against Old Dominion. We just went the other way. We rolled to the right, and Lenore's kept it. Saturday, we rolled to the left, and he threw it, but it's the same play, So I think as we continue to try and change how the play looks, formations and motions and things like that, but conceptually you're doing the same things. Like I said, every week is different. There's going to be new things that we do this week because it fits LSU better than it did Kentucky, but we try and keep the bulk of our offense the same week to week, run game and pass game. So there is a lot of carryover and continuity, and the more you do something, the more comfortable and confident you're going to get at it.
Kind of going off with Sellers there from watching the tape, it seemed like there were times where the pressure got to him, and he got hit in the pocket, obviously on those 2 fumbles. Then there were times where he stepped up and made some good throws and had his eyes downfield. What did you see that stood out with how he handled that pressure in the pocket when it collapsed?
I thought he did a good job. One, we need to protect it better because on a couple of those we should have been protected. and he didn't expect to get hit because we should have been protected, so we've got to protect it better. But I thought the play that he made on the play over on Kentucky's sideline to Mazio was a big-time play, and where we should have been protected. We got beat. And then there's a guy that he's not expecting to be there, is in his vision, and he has the athleticism to evade that guy. I love Spencer. I would tell Spencer this. Last year, that's probably a sack with Spencer. But Lenoris is able to make that guy miss, evade the rush, keep his eyes downfield, and then find Mazio for a big play. I think that was third down over there on their sideline as well. So I think he'll just get more and more comfortable with those things. But you showed what he can do, and it goes back to what Rick said, just the being comfortable, being confident in what we're doing, where he knows where his answers are. He knows where to go with the ball. And I thought he did a much better job Saturday of just kind of relaxing and just going and making plays and just go play ball. And that's what he'll need to do Saturday for sure. Thank y'all.